we go. Gladys Golding, PhD, is an award-winning scientist, international STEM educator, and the founding CEO at BioLogue Laboratorium. Gladys instructs a spectrum of young minds from kindergarten through pre-med college students and K-12 educators on anatomy and physiology, botany, cell biology and genetics, chemistry, environmental science, forensics, and integrated science on a continuous basis, as well as provide professional development for K through 12 educators. Her curriculum design client list includes Youth Leadership Academy, TGI Tech Program at YMCA of Greater Atlanta, Boy Scouts of America, COG Inc., and Atlanta Cares Mentoring. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Kinesiology and Exercise Science Biology, Master's of Science in Molecular Cell and Physiology, and a PhD in Curriculum Development and Instruction. Her academic passion for science occurred serendipitously, that's a good word, while taking science courses in college. During her rigorous study, Gladys served as a lead graduate assistant at a university and received the coveted Biology Instruction Award. Prior to receiving that honor, she acquired an award for outstanding achievement in biology at another institution and mentored international physicians. Gladys won the 2020 WIT Women of the Year in Science, also served as a judge for the International Science and Engineering Fair and National Society for Black Engineers, a research assistant for Emory University, science presenter cow eye dissection and kidney dissection on YouTube, a science textbook author, lab manual revision reviewer for Wiley & Sons and McGraw-Hill, racial justice facilitator for It's Time to Talk Atlanta, STEM panelist for the Pink Power Conference, Georgia Council for International Visitors Delegate, American Businesswoman Association, Hidden Chills Chapter Education Chair, and 2015 ABWA Woman of the Year, and 2015 Georgia Department of Education Science Reviewer, Spelman PhD panelist, Girls to Women Leadership Symposium presenter, and Black Girls CODE Women of Color STEM panelist. Speaker for 2019 Seismic at Georgia Tech STEAM Leadership Conference and Women in Physics Conference at Georgia State University. Her publications include State of STEM Education, Impacting Girls Through Authentic STEM Opportunities, and Bioscience Research Addressing Genetic Diseases like Sickle Cell Anemia. That is an impressive bio, and I would like to introduce Dr. Gladys Golding. Please make her welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here, and I hope that you learn a lot from this presentation. So it's entitled COVID-19 Myths and Hesitations. So let's go ahead and dive in. For some reason it's not. Okay, let's see what's happening here. It's not. Okay, there you go. So although we are continuing with our normal life for the most part, we are still in a global pandemic. Yes, we are. But however, we are continuing our regular routines. And so I hope to give you informed information in reference to how to navigate this pandemic while we are trying to continue with our normal lives. Okay, so the first thing is, I want to go over some information that you're probably familiar with, but we have to start somewhere. So what is COVID-19? So we already know that it's an infectious disease and it's caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus, right? So COVID-19, it affects different people in different ways. So it's not everybody's going to have the same symptoms or respond the same way. So basically older adults and people who have severe underlying medical conditions, they're at higher risk for developing COVID-19. So usually if you think about it, your immune system could be fighting something that you're already dealing with. So when COVID comes in, it can actually take over and cause a lot of issues. So a lot of people have like heart and lung issues, or if they are diabetics, okay? So infected people have a wide range of symptoms, and they can be from mild or they can be from severe. And the thing is, you see severe symptoms in individuals who have these underlying conditions, okay? This is just to show you what the COVID vaccine, the COVID virus actually looks like, right? So there's really not much to a virus. The main thing is, it has these proteins on the outside, and they call them these spike glycoproteins. That's what those are, these red structures here. And it has genetic material. So the genetic material in this case is RNA. So it can be either DNA or RNA, but in this case, it's RNA. And we naturally have RNA in our bodies, okay? Then it has this membrane, okay? And it has other structures, but there's really not much to a virus as far as the anatomy. However, they are lethal, okay, as we already know. Some of the COVID-19 symptoms, which you've already may have heard of, you would have basically, a cough. So it could be either a wet one or a dry one. A lot of people, because this particular virus attacks the lung, they have shortness of breath, okay? And then some people have fever, okay, chills, muscle pain. Some have headaches. Loss of smell or taste. That's not in everyone, but a lot of people have reported that. A sore throat, or they could be fatigued and feel lethargic. What does COVID-19 do to the body? So here's an example here. For example, the heart, it can cause inflammation of the heart, right? So that can damage the heart muscle. So we know that the heart pumps blood throughout the body. So think about that. So it can't function properly to get the oxygen that we need to the other cells in the body. Also, it could affect blood vessels, okay? So I'm sure many of you may have heard about people having blood clots. So it could cause blood clots. And again, when you have blood clots, that impedes the flow of blood, so getting oxygen to the tissues, as well as the kidney. So a lot of COVID-19 patients, they suffer serious kidney damage, and that requires dialysis. So that's another thing, when you're talking about your kidneys, that has a lot to do with your blood pressure and everything. And if you have to go on dialysis, that can affect your life entirely, in the sense that you have to go to dialysis 3 times a week. So that's why it's important that you think about, vaccines. Also, it can affect the brain. Okay, so another thing, if you get a blood clot, that could lead to a stroke or something like that. And then again, the lungs, which could cause pneumonia, okay? And also the intestines. So it's a small percentage, 20% of patients report like diarrhea. So it has been found in the liver tract of some patients, okay? So these are some of the things that can happen to your body if you contract COVID-19, okay? So here's some common questions about COVID-19 that the entire population has, people who are uncomfortable or don't really understand what COVID is all about, okay? So the first one, is it safe to get the COVID-19 vaccine? So yes, it is, okay? So the 2 messenger RNA vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna, they've been authorized by the US FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, how come it wasn't approved? The reason why it wasn't approved is because of the fact that we needed to have it as fast as possible. So that's why it was authorized. So a lot of people are thinking, well, it hasn't been approved, I don't feel comfortable with that. Well, it's because we needed to get it to the population as rapidly as possible. Because if you think about it, people were dying from this virus, okay? So another thing is the benefits of COVID-19 vaccinations, they continue to outweigh any potential risk. So in other words, so if you do get COVID and you take, a vaccine, what will happen is you won't get as ill, okay? So you won't have to be hospitalized. Remember, we had the situation where the hospitals were overwhelmed with patients who did not have the vaccine, so it really can impact, our health facilities, and a lot of people were on ventilators, and we only have so many ventilators. So yeah, so that's the benefit of it, okay? Is it safe for children to get the COVID-19 vaccine? Yes, so before recommending the COVID-19 vaccine for children, scientists, you must conduct clinical trials, okay? So they're not just putting something out there and they have no idea what will happen. There is a process that, the science community must go through before these vaccines can be approved. So when you go through clinical trials, that means that there were children or adults that participated in a research study, okay? And they were given these vaccines, and then they were able to report their feelings, or the scientists were able to see whether they had not responded well to it. So that's the purpose of the clinical trial. So no, they're not just putting something out there. They have to follow the research process, okay? So then the US Food and Drug Administration determined that the COVID-19 vaccines, that they're safe and effective for everyone 6 months and older. So ongoing safety monitoring shows that COVID-19 vaccine, they continue to be safe for children. Let me also say, the people who have had the vaccines, that's where they're getting the information from. So if someone goes into the hospital and they say, oh, I had the vaccine and, I'm feeling lethargic or something, that's how we're getting the information, okay? So people are reporting how they're feeling once they've been exposed. And let me just say, pretty much for the most part, the majority of healthcare providers, they must take the vaccine because of the fact that they're working with patients. They cannot risk the life of patients. So I always say, all you have to do is look at the healthcare providers. They're still here, okay? So they haven't fallen off, so that's a good indicator as well. Now, another question, are long-term side effects possible with the COVID-19 vaccine? So basically, serious side effects that could cause a long-term health problem, they are rare, okay? However, some people do have side effects, okay? And a lot of times it has to do with people who are probably immunocompromised, okay? So they already have something else going on in most cases, okay? So the whole idea is to build your immune system, eat properly, exercise, and if you don't have those underlying conditions, and so you can boost that immune system to help you fight, the COVID along with the vaccine. So yes, there are some long-term side effects, but they're still learning about that, okay? So here's some common side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. So some people experience some malaise, okay? So they're feeling, uneasy or some discomfort. Again, chills. Also, they may have redness or pain at the injection site, headache, and these are temporary for the most part. Some body and muscle pain, nausea and diarrhea. And then some fatigue, feeling tired. So those are common side effects once you get the vaccine, and they usually don't last that long. I'd say maybe like 2 to 3 days. Should you get the COVID-19 vaccine if you are not high risk? Okay, so getting vaccinated yourself, you're going to protect the people who are in your immediate environment, whether that be in your home, because you can have someone in your home who may have some issues or may be immunocompromised, or people at your job. Okay, so yes, you should. Okay, so getting sick with COVID-19 can cause severe illness or death, and we can't reliably predict who will have mild or severe illness. So if you get sick, you can spread COVID-19 to others. So that's why, even though you may not be at high risk and you may have the best immune system and you may be healthy, it still benefits people within your environment. Are the original vaccines still efficacious and necessary? Okay, yes, they are. Okay, so they remain the one single most important tool to protect people against serious illness, and especially hospitalization and death, okay? So getting vaccinated now, it will prevent you from getting an authorized variant-specific vaccine in the fall or winter when they are recommended for you. So yes, you should definitely get vaccinated, and you should also take the booster shots, okay? Because that boosts your immune system. And I guess a lot of people ask, well, why do I need a booster shot? Because of the fact that when you get the vaccine, it doesn't last very long, okay? And even if you do still have some remnants of it, getting a booster will help add to what the residual reserve is, and then that will protect you even more, okay? So given recent increases in deaths and hospitalizations associated with the BA variant, the BA.5, everyone should stay up to date with the recommended COVID-19 vaccinations, which are the booster shots, okay? So that's what we're talking about here. So, and again, the focus is on especially those who are immunocompromised, okay? So does natural immunity from infection protect against COVID-19 more effectively than vaccines? Okay, so as I have written here, the data is very clear. Okay, so natural immunity is not better in this case. Okay, so it can help. Okay, it can assist with the vaccine, but alone it can't do it. So the COVID-19 vaccines create more effective and longer lasting, that's the key, immunity than the natural immunity from infection. So that's the key right there, longer lasting immunity, okay? So more than a third of COVID-19 infections result in zero protective antibodies, and natural immunity, it fades much faster, okay, than vaccine immunity. So that's why there's a push for everyone to, or as many people as possible, to actually take the vaccine, okay? So natural immunity alone is less than half as effective than natural immunity plus the vaccination. So them working together, your immune system and the vaccine, that's what gives you that protection, okay? And like I said, you know, in the prior slide, especially if you are immunocompromised, because when you're immunocompromised, your immune system is lower anyway. Okay, so that puts you in a position to actually get the disease and to have more severe symptoms from COVID-19. Should I wait until there is an updated vaccine to the new COVID-19 variant before getting immunized? Okay, so what I'm talking about there is that, you know, we've seen these variants. We had, okay, started with the COVID-19. Okay, now we have, what is that, the BA4, the BA5, we had the Omicron. So the answer is no, okay? The Omicron vaccines will contain components, so it has parts that target the original strain of the virus, because the first vaccine formulations are known to prevent serious illness and death, even with people infected with Omicron. Okay, so they are trying to put together what I call like a cocktail vaccine, where they're trying to get all the genomic information from the various vaccines, but it's still recommended that you get the other vaccine, because that will still protect you and again prevent those severe symptoms. Okay, so yes. Should I expect side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine? Okay, so I mentioned earlier, so there are some common side effects. So you may experience a little bit of pain, redness, and this is not applicable to everyone. Everybody responds a little differently, but there may be some pain, some redness and swelling. Again, the fever, the chills, the lethargy, so you may feel a little fatigued, okay, headache, muscle pain, and also possibly some nausea. But like I said, that does not affect everyone. Is not affected the same way. Okay, so everybody is different. Okay. Are the side effects from COVID-19 permanent? Okay, so people call post-COVID conditions by many names. Okay, so it could be long COVID. Okay, it could be long haul COVID, which is very popular. Post-acute COVID-19, Q that happens, quickly, post-acute sequelae of SARS-CoV-2 infection, or it could be long-term effects of COVID and chronic COVID. So these are all names that they're using for that. Okay, so post-COVID conditions, they can include a wide range, very broad, okay, of ongoing health problems. So these conditions can last for weeks, months, or years. So here's the thing, okay, they really don't know if they are permanent, because remember, we're still getting information, okay? Because we're still going through this pandemic, so we don't have all the answers. However, they are monitoring these people who are reporting these symptoms or these effects from the actual vaccine. However, the answer is not, quite clear at this moment. So people who are not vaccinated against COVID-19 and they become infected, they may also be at higher risk of developing those post-COVID conditions, okay, compared to those who were vaccinated, okay, and they had a breakthrough infection. So what a breakthrough infection is, that's when an individual has already been vaccinated and then they get reinfected with the COVID. That's what that is. That's a breakthrough infection. So you've already been vaccinated. So I'm sure you may have heard that there are many people who have already been vaccinated and then they've gotten, reinfected with COVID. That's what a breakthrough infection is. However, their symptoms were less severe. Okay, they were not hospitalized. So, and they weren't as fatigued, having all those symptoms that we've seen in people who have not been vaccinated. So if I have had and recovered from COVID-19, do I still need a vaccine or a booster? So as I mentioned before, yes. Okay, so you should be vaccinated regardless of whether you already had COVID-19. And the reason why is that, so research has not yet shown how long you are protected from getting COVID-19, again, after you recover from COVID-19, okay? So research has not yet shown how long you are protected from getting COVID-19. So that's why they're encouraging you to continue getting these boosters, because in some of the studies, they've seen where when people have gotten the vaccine, but their protection has waned. So in other words, the vaccine could only possibly maybe be good for maybe 4 or 5 months, okay? So there's still, research on that. So vaccination helps protect you even if you've already had COVID-19. And as I said before, because if you're vaccinated and you have a breakthrough infection, what? You have less severe symptoms, you're not hospitalized, so you have more protection. Is there anyone that should not get the COVID-19 vaccine? So we have 2 exceptions, okay? So people who have severe allergic reactions, okay? So to any component of either a messenger RNA vaccine or the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine, they should not receive that vaccine. So if you have a severe allergic reaction, okay, you should not receive the vaccine. Or you have some people who are exempted because of religious beliefs, okay? So those are the 2 exceptions. Okay, so if I am vaccinated against COVID-19, can I still get COVID? So I already mentioned to you that you can get a breakthrough infection, and that's when you've already been vaccinated and then you acquire COVID-19 again. So yes, so you can get COVID-19 if you're fully vaccinated. However, I want to reiterate, your symptoms are less severe. Okay, you don't have to be hospitalized. You're not, sick or, or having any of those symptoms that I mentioned prior. So that's the benefit. So, so that's because none of the vaccines will prevent 100% of COVID-19 cases. Okay, so and again, there's still research that's being done to help improve these vaccines. Okay, so when a fully vaccinated person tests positive for COVID-19, it's called a breakthrough infection. And I've mentioned that several times. But getting vaccinated is still worth it. Yes, it is. Okay. How long does the effects of COVID-19 last? Okay. So people with post-COVID conditions can have a wide range of symptoms that can last more than 4 weeks or even months after the infection. Okay, so like I said, it depends on the individual. That's not everybody's story. And the reason why this information is written that way is because they see variation among people who have COVID and how it affected them. So sometimes the symptoms can even go away and they can come back again. So that is something that can happen. But again, if you are vaccinated, they are less severe. And again, you won't have to be hospitalized. Were there safety procedures skipped to make the COVID-19 vaccine available faster? Okay, so I mentioned a little bit about it earlier. So although COVID-19 vaccines were developed quickly, okay, research and development on vaccines like these, they have been underway for decades, okay? So what I'm saying here is, okay, no, they did not have the COVID-19 vaccine, but they had other vaccines that are made similar to the COVID-19 vaccine, because a lot of people were like, oh, they made it so fast. No, this type of vaccine has been in the works for decades, okay? So it wasn't something that some scientists were sitting inside the lab and say, okay, let me just create something. No, they were already working on this type of vaccine, okay? So it's a messenger RNA vaccine. Okay, that's what it is. Remember, I told you a component of the COVID-19 virus is an RNA. Its genome is RNA. Okay, we naturally have messenger RNA in our cells. See, in the case with us in our cells, the messenger RNA it gets information from our DNA so it can produce proteins throughout our body. I call us protein manufacturers. So messenger RNA is not new. It's normally in our body. So messenger RNA vaccines, they have been studied before for the flu, for Zika, rabies, CMV. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. It's nothing new, okay? So as soon as the necessary information about the virus that causes COVID-19 was available, scientists, that's when they began designing the messenger RNA instructions for cells to build the unique spike protein into a messenger RNA vaccine. Now, I showed you in the image earlier what the spike protein looks like. It's on the outside of the virus and it sticks out. That's the spike protein. So all they did was they took that messenger RNA and they said, we want you to make that spike protein, that structure that sits on the outside, one of those structures that sits on the outside of the virus. So because messenger RNA gets us information from DNA, so all they did was say, we want you to make this. So it makes this spike protein. And once that spike protein is created, it goes to the top of our cell, right? So that's foreign. So when our immune system sees that spike protein, it says, you're not supposed to be there. So it causes your immune system to go to combat for you. So that's what's going on with the messenger RNA. We normally have that, and it does make proteins for us. So the scientists are just saying, we're going to use that to make the spike protein. Our immune system would say, you're not supposed to be there, and we can mount an immune response. So that's what that's all about, okay? So all vaccine development steps were taken to ensure COVID-19 vaccine safety and effectiveness, including, like I mentioned earlier, clinical trials, okay? So all vaccines in the United States must go through 3 phases of clinical trials to ensure they are safe and effective, okay? So that means that there are people who volunteer to participate in this research to learn about, this particular vaccine. And this happens in the majority of all research when it comes to like drugs and medication and stuff like that. It has to go through clinical trials. They can't just put it out there, okay? So the phases overlap to speed up the process. So they had to expedite things because people were dying, okay? But all phases were completed, okay? So this is the process that all scientists, researchers must go through before anything can hit the market like that, okay? So authorization or approval. So before vaccines are available to the people, the Food and Drug Administration reviews data from clinical trials. So while these individuals are participating in these clinical trials, the scientists and the researchers, they are recording data, information. So in other words, how is this patient or this person who's participating in this research, how are they responding? So these individuals are giving them feedback so that they can report this to the FDA, okay? So excuse me. Wait, I went too far. What happened? Wait, sorry about that. Something happened here. Let me go back.
No problem. We're used to the Zoom.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay. Let me see. No, I'm okay. Just want to get back here. Okay, I think I'm almost there. Let me pull this back up. Okay. Okay, yeah, so the FDA has determined that 3 COVID-19 vaccines, they meet the FDA standard and has granted those vaccines emergency use, okay? So remember I said emergency use authorization because we had to expedite things, okay? So you can see that this whole process was expedited, but it was expedited because of the fact that we had a global issue, Okay, that's why it was expedited. Now, in the normal process, it would probably take much longer, but we had to deal with a lot of fatalities, and we had to try to get a grip on, people dying. So that's why it was expedited. Okay. So as many of you know, that these were the different vaccines that were actually authorized for emergency use by the FDA. So we had the Pfizer, okay? So again, that's a messenger RNA vaccine, okay? You can see that here, the efficacy of it was 95%, at least 7 days after dose 2, okay? So after dose 2, okay? And then we had the Moderna, that's another messenger RNA, okay? So what we had here was that we had 94.1% at least 14 days after dose 2, okay? So basically the first dose in these cases were like a primer to get your immune system prepared, okay? And then once you got the second one, it was able to really mount a defense, against the virus, okay? And then we also had the Johnson & Johnson, right? So this one was it used a vector, okay? So a vector is different from a messenger RNA. A vector is when they use, like maybe in this case, it was the adenovirus to actually put the information, or let's say the vaccine, into the cell. So it was different, okay? And in this case, the efficacy was a bit low. It was 72%. So you can see that more people had the Pfizer and the Moderna, okay? Because you have here 300 million in those two cases, and then 100 million of the Johnson & Johnson, okay? So this is just showing you about the messenger RNA. So how it enters the cell in your body, okay? So this would be the messenger RNA, that's genetic material. And so what happens is the cells, they're actually going to use that messenger RNA to make the spike protein. That's pretty much what I explained to you before. And then so what's going to happen is your immune system is going to actually mount in a response to the fact that something is different on your cell. So that's what's happening here. Again, so this messenger RNA is going to go into the cell. The messenger RNA is going to make the spike protein. That spike protein is going to show up on your cell, which is not normally there. And your immune system is not going to recognize it and say, hey, you have to go. So it's going to mount a defense against it. So that's the idea behind the messenger RNA, okay? Just recently, as a matter of fact, last month in July, the CDC, they approved Novavax, okay? So unlike the messenger RNA and the vector, because the vector vaccine is the Johnson & Johnson and the messenger RNA is the Moderna and the Pfizer, okay, this is a protein adjuvant, okay? So when you hear adjuvant, so that's an ingredient used to strengthen the immune response. So in other words, it works along with something, an adjuvant. So it's almost like when somebody's getting anesthesia, they give them a sedative, right? And that's going to sort of lower their response. And then when they add the anesthesia, it really boosts that response to the anesthesia. So that's what the adjuvant is. And they use different type of chemicals as adjuvant. So it could be something like aluminum, okay, aluminum phosphate or something like that. So it's supposed to help boost that response. So while other vaccines tricks the body cells into creating parts of the virus that can trigger the immune response, the Novavax vaccine takes a different approach. It contains the spike protein. So that spike protein that was being made with the messenger RNA, in this case, it already has the spike protein of the coronavirus itself, but formulated as a nanoparticle, which cannot cause disease. So it contains that spike protein, right, that I showed you on the outside of the virus, okay? But here's the thing, it's a nanoparticle. So a nanoparticle is something that's so tiny that you can't see it. So it's really, really, really tiny. Nano means really, really, it's really small, okay? So when the vaccine is injected, what's going to happen is it's going to stimulate the immune system to produce antibodies and T cell immune responses. Now, the T cells are very important in immunity, okay? So once you stimulate them, and, because I call our immune system our military, it protects us, okay? So that's the difference between the Novavax and the other vaccines that we discussed. So this one already has that spike protein, but it's so tiny, okay? But it's going to elicit an immune response because it's still something that's foreign and it shouldn't, be there in your body. So that's a way of getting your immune system to react to it, okay? Okay. So do COVID-19 vaccines contain a microchip? Okay, well, that sounds really great. It sounds really futuristic, but no, okay. That's just not possible as far as the size that would be required for that microchip. It's just not feasible, okay? So second, the microchip would have to have an associated power source, okay? So you need something in conjunction, something to power it. And then in addition, that power source will have to transmit a signal through at least an inch of muscle and fat and skin to a remote device. So it's a bit complicated. So, you can't just put a microchip in it. You have to have a way for that microchip to actually work, okay? So that's just not feasible, not, put it this way, microchips are not in any of the COVID vaccines. Okay, let's just be clear, because look at all that will be required. Okay, again, a power source. So if they inject you with some type of microchip that's in the vaccine, okay, where's the power source coming from? Okay, are you saying that it's possibly solar? Okay, but it's not exposed to light. So that's just not feasible. It's just not feasible. Okay. Okay, so are masks necessary? And if so, what is the best type of mask, and is there a right way and a wrong way to wear them? Yes, masks are still necessary in highly populated environments. So let's say, for example, if you're at an event, a concert or something where there's large numbers of people, yes, you should still wear a mask, because you don't know if the person next to you, or there could be somebody who you're with that's next to you, but somebody who's in your vicinity still, if they have the COVID-19 virus, and so it's easy to spread in those environments. Okay, so yes, you should definitely wear a mask when you're in highly populated environments, or let's say, and also if you're working and you come home and you have someone in your home that's compromised, right? You should wear a mask in their presence. You should, to protect them. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so these are some of the ways that people, are wearing masks, because if you're not wearing it properly, then it's not doing any good. That's the bottom line. Okay, so you can see here the proper way to wear a mask would be to make sure that it covers, your nose, and also it goes below your chin. Okay, so you have a lot of people who are, they have them hanging off the side. Yeah, you have your mask, but it's not doing anyone any good. You can see this one here is sort of at the very bottom of the nose, so something can actually get into the nostrils. Okay, this one here is not covering, the lower part, the chin here, and obviously this one has it under his chin. Okay, and this one here, his nose is exposed. Okay, and then this person, I guess, is just a fashion statement here. He's just wearing it down below. Okay, yeah, so the proper way is to make sure that it is above your nostrils. Okay, because remember, your nostrils have openings. Okay, and the virus can enter through there. So you want to make sure that it's at, at least at the middle of at the top, like at the bridge of your nose in the middle. Okay, and also covering up under your chin. Okay, definitely. Okay, so I've been vaccinated. What's next? Okay, so after being vaccinated, so here's the thing. So even though you're vaccinated, doesn't mean that, oh, I'm safe, it's all over. We already, talked about that. Okay, but you have to continue taking simple precautions. Okay, so you still should continue to physically distance yourself from others. You still should. Okay, because like I said, you don't know if that individual has the virus. Okay, so you definitely want to continue to distance yourself from people. Wear your mask. Wear your mask in the appropriate environment. Okay. Keep rooms well ventilated. You should, because viruses, they thrive in environments when, where there's no ventilation. So you definitely want to keep rooms well ventilated. Avoid crowds, but if you can't avoid crowds, again, wear your mask. Okay. The main thing is cleaning your hands. You should clean your hands frequently. You should be carrying around some type of soap or something where you can frequently clean your hands, because that's really, a major reason why this stuff is passed on. I know it's airborne, but also because a lot of people just don't clean their hands. So you can carry some type of solution with you where you can keep your hands clean. Okay, and coughing, that's another thing. You should be coughing into the bent part of your elbow. Okay, so instead of coughing in your hand, covering, the cough with your hand or creating a fist or something like that, what you're doing is you're putting the germs on your hand, and then what do? You start touching stuff. Okay, so you touch a surface or you touch your face or something like that. So you should definitely, cough into the bent part of the elbow. Okay, and then the other thing is, you get tested if you were sick, even if you've been vaccinated. So, I'm sure many of you may have received the free test kits from the government. So that's another way that you can test yourself at home to see if you have COVID, because it's best to know. So that way, if you do have it, you won't be spreading it to anyone else. And then another thing about getting tested. Oh, so yeah, I'm not really sure now what the guidelines are as far as how much time, if you are positive, how much time do you actually quarantine, because that's changing regularly. At one time, it used to be 10 days. It's not 10 days anymore. It may be 5, so that's still a little iffy, but I know it's no longer 10 days. I work in an environment where I'm around students, and I know that they had reduced the amount of time last semester to 5 days, but I'm not sure where it is now. But because we have these vaccines, we don't have to quarantine for that long period of time. And I guess also it depends on, how sickly or sick you are. Okay. And I think that's my last slide. Yes. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Fantastic. What a thorough presentation. Thank you, Dr. Golding, for all that information. Wonderful. I'm going to review a couple of questions from the chat. And some of the things you did eventually cover, but if you want to touch on anything, there is one in particular from one of the participants that asked about pregnant women and the COVID-19 vaccine. I assume that's about safety.
From what I understand at this time, it is safe. I always check with the CDC. Let's be clear. Now, if you ever have any questions or concerns, the CDC, they keep that information updated. But from what I understand right now, it is supposed to be safe, unless things have changed, for pregnant women to actually take the vaccine. But I would always check with the CDC because they keep that updated on a regular basis.
Great, thank you. So the other one is people with underlying health issues already, is it safe for them to get vaccinated?
Yes, it definitely is. As a matter of fact, the person who is immunocompromised is more at risk than someone who has a very robust immune system. So someone with underlying conditions should definitely get a vaccine. Because remember I said, usually if you have some underlying condition, your immune system is already fighting that and trying to protect you from that. So when COVID or any type of virus comes in, it can take advantage of that. So, because think about it, your immune system can't be fighting so many different things at the same time. So that's why it's important that you get the vaccine so you can boost your immune system.
So that makes perfect sense. The next question is, are there specific age groups that should be vaccinated or shouldn't be vaccinated?
At this time, 6 months and older has been okay for vaccines. Now they're saying that as far as like infants, like below 6 months, they don't have a vaccine for them, but I think that they get their protection from the mom if she has been vaccinated. But yeah, right now they have approved 6 months and older for vaccines.
Okay, great. And I know that some of this is information that is being updated, as we go along and we determine what's safe and not safe. So, we're still in the learning curve with all this.
And I would like to say one more thing, that you have to be careful where you're getting your information from, because you have people who are not qualified to be given information. And I always say, the CDC is the best reference or the place to go to for information, as well as places like Johns Hopkins, Emory Hospital. Those are places that you want to get information from that's credible.
Absolutely. And that's why we're doing this today with an expert such as yourself, is we want to stop the misinformation and make sure that people are getting as much up-to-date and valuable information as possible to help them make their choice. This is something that came up in our meeting today, because I think this might have changed. and I'm not sure if you're able to answer this, but at what interval is it expected to take the doses of the vaccines? In other words, between your first dose, your second dose, your boosters?
Okay, so the last time it was like 4 months, so it may be 6 months now. But the main thing is that you keep up with those boosters, but it's between 4 and 6 months.
Okay, and I know that that's also something that's changing as they go along at determining
Absolutely.
the efficacy. Okay,
Absolutely.
fantastic. So here's one. With the COVID-19 vaccine, with boosters being allowed to mix, is having one type mixed with another more protection, or is it about the same between all of them?
That's a great question. So basically, it's like a cocktail. So if you think about the flu vaccine is a cocktail. So it has different strains in it, right? So basically, when you have the vaccines that are mixed, what they're doing is getting genomic information from that particular virus, and then they're getting it from another. So in other words, if you encounter either of those viruses, you will be protected. So that's how the flu vaccine is. So because the flu is always changing. So it's a cocktail of different genomic information. And so that way, if you encounter any of those variants, it's supposed to protect you. So that's what they're working on now. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And like I said, we all know this is a work in progress.
Yes.
So this is a good question. Can people with allergies get vaccinated without, I guess, an adverse event?
Now, I mentioned earlier in the PowerPoint that if you have allergic reactions, that you would be exempt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I would definitely speak with my healthcare provider to find out, the type of allergy that you have. But usually, somebody who has anaphylaxis or some type of allergic reaction, they are exempt from taking the vaccine. However, you should still protect yourself by wearing a mask, and as far as social distancing and following all those other procedures to protect yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very good question. I know that people are confused about how safe they are and not safe. So this person says they've been vaccinated and has been wearing their mask. So they want to know if that makes them safe from COVID-19.
Okay, let me just say this. Okay, yeah, what it is, you could have a breakthrough infection. I mentioned that. So you can be reinfected with the virus, okay? However, you are safe in the sense that you won't be hospitalized and you won't have severe symptoms, okay? So, but you can still be reinfected. There's many people, but however, they just didn't get as sick. So you still are, yes, quote unquote, safe.
Gotcha, okay. And this is a question I haven't heard before. Is it possible to detect an asymptomatic person?
That's a good question. If you do the testing, you have to use the test kit. So if you test yourself through a test kit, because you do have people who are asymptomatic. Okay, so if you do the testing, that should determine whether you have COVID or not.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. And here's the final question in the chat is, do COVID-19 vaccines interfere with other drugs and medications?
Now, that is a good question. Now, I don't know the answer to that one. I haven't heard anything, but I can't say yay or nay on that. I'm not really sure about that. I cannot answer that question. That's a great question, though.
Mm-hmm. That might be a question for their physician.
Yes.
Or the
Absolutely.
pharmacist. I know the pharmacists are kind of still learning, but that could be depending on the drug or the medication. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, the information is still coming in. That's why I said we're still in the research stage. So we're still learning, Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We're here to learn together. And this is a question I have heard quite a bit, is how reliable are the home tests for COVID-19?
Okay, yeah, some of them, let me just say some of the reliability has to do with the individual that's also taking the test, because they may not be taking the test properly. There's still some questions, but I can tell you that, some are reliable, some are not. It's a toss up. I know people have taken the test. It has been positive because they, experienced some symptoms and it came out positive. But there's still some questions out there. They're still trying to get it right. Let's just say that.
Sure. Yeah. And the possibility for user error is always in play for anyone. I mean, you could follow it exactly, and there's always variables. Absolutely. I think that's the end of the questions so far. in the chat. And I think this has been a very thorough presentation, and I know that it's been appreciated by the participants, and I'm sure that people will go away feeling better armed to make their decision to be vaccinated and or to get their boosters if they've already been vaccinated, to continue wearing their masks in high-risk situations, or if they are in a high-risk household. We know that it's not just about protecting ourselves, it's about protecting our community and the people that we care about. And that's what we're all about, is making sure that everyone is taken into consideration. We are a community, and even though we do have to look out for ourselves, we are part of a community, and it's important to look out for one another as well. Does anybody have any final questions for Dr. Golding? See, that's how thorough you were. You really covered quite a bit of information.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, my name is Brenda Walker. Do you have an update on the new booster that they're talking about that the CDC is speaking of now?
No, I don't have an update on it, but you can definitely go to the CDC website and they'll provide you with all the information that you need.
Okay, well, thank you. The information that you gave, I mean, which I am vaccinated, so I can always make sure I kind of push this information off to some more family members that I have that's not vaccinated at all.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to move on to just a couple of anecdotal experiences. We have Maggie here and Denise, both of whom have had vaccines, and they're just going to quickly share their experience. And we'll go ahead and start with Denise. Denise, you're unmuted, so you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Well, the coronavirus has disproportionately impacted the community of colors. The coronavirus has killed thousands of people, including our very own co-worker who passed away, unfortunately, of coronavirus. But when the vaccines came out, there's still a lot of hesitancy in terms of taking it. And I was one of those people that was very reluctant to take the vaccine, but I decided to go ahead and take the plunge because it is another line of defense in addition to washing your hands and social distancing and wearing masks. So I made my appointment and I went and I had the Moderna vaccine. And it was a very quick experience. In fact, if my friend hadn't been with me to witness it and take my picture, I wouldn't have known that I had it because it was just that quick. It was in and out and I was done. Didn't have any lasting side effects, just some soreness in the injection site. But I'm fully vaccinated and boosted, and I feel excited that I got that done, that I took action and did something to protect myself and my family. And I'm encouraging everyone else to go get vaccinated.
Thank you, Denise, for sharing your personal story. Really appreciated. And also, Maggie, if you have anything to add, absolutely share your experience.
Okay, so I was definitely one of those that was hesitant. And I was like, I don't want to put this thing in my body if I don't know how I'm going to react to it. So I didn't get my initial vaccine until last December. And I decided to go ahead and do it. And I went down to the health department. It was very easy and didn't hurt at all. And the shot didn't hurt, but I did have some soreness. And then after the second vaccine, which was a couple weeks later, I was just really tired. I had muscle aches, but other than that, I didn't really have any bad symptoms. And then I've recently gotten my booster, and again, just pain in my arm, a little bit of tiredness. And I'm really glad that I did it because, yeah, it makes me feel safer, and also makes me feel better that I'm not going to be spreading it around to other people around me.
Absolutely. I think that's been part of a lot of people's choice they have looked beyond their own impact to, the effect it could have on family members or community members. No one wants to accidentally infect someone with potential catastrophic outcomes. So I think that has swayed a lot of people in their decisions. So thank you, Maggie, for sharing your experience. I'm going to let our executive director, Neil Ligon, take over. He's going to explain our upcoming vaccination clinic on September the 26th.
Thank you so much, Angel. Thank you, Maggie, and thank you, Denise, for talking about your experiences. And thank you, Dr. Golding, for an amazing presentation. That's the most thorough presentation I think I've ever seen. So well done on that. I wanted to share with you guys, so we at Life see this as a very important aspect of what we do in the community. A lot of times individuals with disabilities do not have the same level of access to medical care as others. And we see this part of our role is to bridge that gap and provide the opportunity for people with disabilities and their family members to be vaccinated. We're putting on an event. It's the 26th of this month. And that will be, so that is a Friday. It's the last Friday of the month. It's from 10 to 2. And there's lots of great stuff involved with this. First of all, we're going to have, I believe, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine as well as the Pfizer vaccine and booster. So you'll be able to get boosted, vaccinated. We're going to have basically a PPE kit for anybody who comes. In addition to that, we are going to work with you all to be able to provide rides for anybody with a disability who lives in a household with somebody with a disability. So that means that we'll coordinate with you to either reimburse on mileage or to arrange for transportation. We can do that when you call in to schedule your appointment. Or you can do a drop-in and we can work on reimbursement. It'll just be a little bit more delayed. In addition to that, anybody who comes in and gets vaccinated who is part of a household with an individual with a disability in it or themselves has a disability, it will receive a $50 Visa gift card. I don't know if it'll be Visa or MasterCard. It'll be one of the gift cards that you can spend wherever you want to spend it. And that's per shot. So if you're doing your first Pfizer vaccine, then when you come back in on the 9th, because that'll be our second vaccine clinic here, you'll be able to get your second $50 card. And that includes, so we reimburse mileage, we'll be able to give those gift cards. And then the third piece of that is we will be helping provide information for those of you with developmental disabilities or who live in households with people with a developmental disability to get a reimbursement that you could file to get an additional $30. So there are ample financial incentives. In addition to that, we're a Center for Independent Living. We believe in inclusion. And the way this is a scent-free environment, it's got accessible doors. We're going to have space that's going to be sensory for people who are getting overwhelmed. We'll be able to step away from the groups. In addition to that, we're going to have ASL interpreters, American Sign Language interpreters, as well as we're going to be working to have somebody who's a Spanish interpreter as well, Spanish to English. So we'll have all sorts of supports in place. We have the people who are putting on the clinic. It's not us. We're hosting the clinic, but it's CORE. CORE was an organization. It's a crisis response organization. They were founded by Sean Penn after the Haiti earthquakes. They go in and provide immediate aid and recovery and to underserved communities. For any of you that are looking for information about them, I'm going to put the information in the chat. It's www.coreresponse.org. And so I'll put that in the chat. So that's the website. You can explore them. They're going to be both handling intake as well as doing the medical end of things. Nobody at Life is going to be there, but we will be here supporting everybody to make sure that all your questions are answered, to make sure that we're going to have to take a little bit of information to be able to get the gift cards out and things of this nature. But this is going to be handled by medical professionals. I would encourage you to, we're going to have this posted on YouTube. You can review it. Dr. Bowling's presentation was phenomenal, and hopefully that'll answer any questions. If you still have questions, or just need to talk about us with anything logistically, whatnot, as again, I want to make sure that you have the number so that you can call in beginning next week to schedule your appointment, but also to schedule your ride and to answer any questions. If for some reason you have logistical challenges getting here for the second vaccine clinic and you're coming in for your first one, we can work with you on that to make sure that that happens as well. Our goal here is to make sure that all your questions are answered and you have the opportunity to get vaccinated. That's the goal. And we want to make sure that we're doing that in the most supportive environment possible. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to put the Life phone number in to the chat, and whatever questions you have, please give us a call. We will take down all your information, make sure you get answers. I said to make your reservations to call next week, but you can call us and contact us immediately. We're going to start taking reservations. We're coordinating that with the core group, and they'll be able to finalize all the things. We really just need open lines of communication. So that those initial contacts will allow us to establish that.
Absolutely. The recording will also be on our Facebook page, as well as the flyer for the upcoming event, because Neil was very thorough as usual. And so he threw a lot of information out at you. So feel free to check our Facebook page. I'm dropping that chat into the chat as well, the link to that. And that's where we update for most of our events and information. It includes our contact information, our website, our address. So you can always reach us there as well. And the flyers will be there that should answer some of your questions about the when, the where, and the how. And that should be posted within the next couple of days, as well as a recording of this awesome presentation. And so to respect everyone's time, it's already 5 minutes after 2. I'm going to let you go enjoy the rest of your day. Everyone stay well, and we'll see you at the next event.